Hello to everybody. You can hear me now.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, good. Sorry to be like that. I'm in a 2-Zoom household, so the day is more complicated than I imagined. Even more complicated to follow Jade. I'm actually a rather lachrymose man, and can burst into tears at the most surprising moments. I have no presentation to make in the sense that I'm not planning to show you work, but I did want to, in a way, celebrate what I've experienced very directly through Tim and Neve and Phoebe, and if I start naming everybody, we'll be here all the time, but to really everybody involved in involving me. I think artists are incredibly lonely, and this year we've been given time to think about how alone and lonely and lonesome join up, no matter who we are or what our circumstances might have been. And of course, I've recognized how deeply gregarious I am. I live in London and I've been there for 65 years and I need it. I don't suppose it needs me, but I need it. There are odd moments when one's loneliness, or dare I say it, privacy, are punctuated in a very good way. And I think the invitation to go to Hellingly with Tim and Neve is conspicuous for that. So I, in a way, would like to just describe the powers of their brokerage. They don't use, well, they are very sophisticated people, but they don't use, dare I say it, professional language. And they have very unusual powers. I think I could only really call them diplomatic powers. And I think when you're with them, well, certainly in my case, I become even more childish than I already am. So I feel at ease. I feel, dare I say it, looked after. But that could be a smart way of saying managed. And I definitely feel the strength of the in the word invitation. And so I've spent God knows how many hours with them, but a lot of that is on trains and in cabs. And there's a sort of energy that we, of course, are all missing, where that space allows for eventuality. There are probably other people in the group, so there might be a dynamic of half a dozen people, conversations hither and thither, very interesting spatial questions about where anyone might sit and who that means they're with. Chaucer stuff, I guess, you know, who you fall into step with. So by the time, for instance, on my first visit to Hellingly, I was in some way sort of strangely at ease, whilst feeling right inside for all sorts of, but you know, the sources of personal experience of different kinds, considerable anxiety. But then, of course, I realized that that Tim and Neve and the people that work with them are already in a dynamic relationship with people at Hellingly, both patients and professional staff. So what I'm really trying to emphasize is that the enormous sense of institution was so magically diminished. And I think a lot of what we're all talking about today are institutions which are physically identifiable, as well as all the countless abstract ones that are in all our relations and our in our politics with a small p. I think it's worth saying that the extraordinarily unfortunate term public art is quite a thing to put round anybody's neck. You know, there were 2 wars, for instance, that affected this island, and there are war memorials, I think, everywhere except for 5 villages. That is, however you look at it, is a kind of definitive public art of its time. So I think being asked to leave the absurdity of one's private space to go into a public realm, but actually a very sequestered public realm, and perform usefully, is incredibly demanding and a very, very really difficult thing to do. And I wouldn't hold up what I did at Hellingly as being the better or worse than anybody else's. It's, if you like, what I could do. But I think I could say what drove it. And what drove it really was a profound sense of what architecture is. So architecture really is not much more than what we now call social distancing. It's how close or how far are you to be from another human, and in what circumstances. And since I'm speaking in a big storm that involves things like temperature and probably our learned need not to get wet and keep dry. And I loved whoever said magnolia. I thought that the Vonnegut piece should be stenciled on a wall. I mean, I nearly knew him, so I was sort of irritated at never having made anything of the opportunity. But I mean, what a brilliant piece of writing. And then whoever said magnolia, and this is a magnolia culture. I suppose that's a sort of, could be a Terence Conran joke. But really, in the big sense, I think we are in such trouble architecturally. And I mean that with a very small a. How we encounter each other, how we feel enabled or disabled by the space that we're in, and the effect we have on others and they have on us, and so on. I mean, it's the biggest subject there is to me. And it's what I think about daily. That's not about architecture school, it's about little architecture. So if I can go on being useful to hospital rooms, it would be to bring that whole question of the built and the safe and the supportive and valuing space much more into focus. Thank you very much indeed.